The 2025 Cincy finals are set, and of course we have another blockbuster center Alcaraz affair. On the women's side, there's Swiatek Paolini, although we have a pretty clear title favorite, Iga Swiatek, who might have made herself the US Open favorite with her impressive semifinal win over Elena Rybakina. I'll preview both upcoming finals, talk more about Swiatek's scintillating form, and touch on the draw for the US Open mixed doubles exhibition. excuse me, prestigious tournament. Hello, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my Cincy final analysis video. Starting off by talking about the first match on day 10, the star-studded semifinal between Swiatek and Rybakina. Iga, she defeated Elena Rybakina 7-5, 6-3 to reach her first final at the Cincinnati Open. Iga was the favorite on paper, but I decided to go against the grain and actually have a bold pick of Raducanu winning this in straight sets, because first of all, I felt that she was in better form, and then also I thought the faster courts would help her even more. And she did have potential, Elena did, to win this in straight sets, I still feel, and she started really well. Both really did, but Raducanu started stronger, and she came out with a little bit more firepower, and that helped her earn the first break at 3-all. Raducanu closed in on claiming the opening set, leading 15-30 at 5-3 on Iga's serve. And here, though, was the big turning point, this 15-30 point, as Rybakina missed a kind of wide open forehand cross-court winner, which would have given her 2 set points. This wasn't like a Roland Garros match where Rybakina just clearly choked and fell apart. She still played solid and didn't choke per se. It was more about really Iga just rising her level and Elena not having the moxie enough to match Swiatek's level. Iga served an ace and then a service winner to close out that 3-5 game. And then when Rybakina served for the set, she tried to break down Swiatek's forehand with pace, and Iga, though, was not budging at all. She was too solid. Swiatek drew errors from Rybakina to get the break, and she did not look back, and Iga won the last 15 of 19 points to claim the opening set. Swiatek, she served tremendously throughout this match. I'll talk more about her serve a little bit later, but Iga also returned exceptionally well here, and I predicted that she would have a much better returning day than Aryna Sabalenka did in that quarterfinal match, because Swiatek, does such a great job of neutralizing Rybakina's serve so well, and that gives her the opportunity to move the ball around a little bit more, exploiting the lanky Kazakh. The second set was interesting because it could have been more straightforward for Iga, but also Rybakina had decent looks at potentially, at least bare minimum, making it more competitive than what it was. Elena did well to dig herself out of holes, namely at 1-4 love 40. She was able to still hold, and she also saved 2 match points when serving to stay in the match at 2-5. But Rybakina also had 2 game points at 1-2 before getting broken, and then she had 2 break points at 2-4 to bring it back on serve, and that was a big missed opportunity because Iga missed her first serves on both of those break points. But Rybakina pressed, and she tried to get the Swiatek shank a bit too much and wasn't consistent enough, and that's just big ups to Iga's defense. The errors just didn't come, and Iga was just, again, way too solid. Swiatek's defense was obviously huge for her, but we gotta now talk about that serve. Iga was definitely in her serve bot bag in this match. She outserved Rybakina. Yes, Rybakina hit 10 aces to Iga's 7 aces, and she also hit 2 fewer double faults than Swiatek, but Iga was just more effective behind her serve in pretty much all the important departments. Swiatek, she made 64% of her first serves in the box compared to Elena's 48% first serve percentage, and then Iga was also much more successful behind her first serve. She won 82% of her first serve points compared to Elena's 63%, which is like, wow. Then also too, Iga had more success behind the second serve. She won 52% of her second serve points compared to Rybakina's 48%. I think the tour should be pretty scared, or a little bit scared, of how well Swiatek is serving right now. And with how well Swiatek was serving throughout this match, Rybakina had to be like on point and needed to protect her own serve much better. Again, she did not make as many first serves as she needed to. That was a big mistake for her. And then I think really what it started with her missing out on the opportunity to close out the opening set, because once she lost that 5-3 game, and really once she got broken too, she really wasn't the same. Still, Rybakina played a solid match. She would be disappointed with the result, but she had another great week. And it's interesting because she's had had 3 great tournaments at the US Open, like lead-up tournaments, making the semifinals of DC, Montreal, and Cincinnati. But she doesn't even have a finalist trophy to show for that. And I still do think that she will be a strong top 5 US Open title contender. But right now, Iga is kind of her kryptonite. And so are the semifinal stages. She just cannot get over that semifinal hump right now in big tournaments. And I know that I kind of low-key gassed up Stefano Vukov a little bit, but I am wondering if eventually the honeymoon period of them kind of like having a healthier looking relationship might wear off. I do think that Rybakina, she's a little bit too dependent on him. She needs to work on problem solving herself a little bit more. And Vukov, we all know he loves to yap. And with the new coaching rules of coaches being allowed more leeway and to being able to say what they want, it could be a blessing or a curse for Rybakina. But looking at Iga, I think that Swiatek has moved up to be my US Open title favorite on the women's side. I wasn't honestly that impressed with her form throughout the tournament, but she rose her level when she needed it, and that's the most impressive thing, because typically whenever she is so-so in tournaments and she comes up against a player like Rybakina in the semifinal stage, she tends to fold. But today she rose, and it was honestly peak form from her as far as her form this tournament. And I think this was a big match for Iga, and it showed the field that first, she cannot be so easily broken down with that forehand side when it comes to pace, especially on quicker surfaces. The way that she stayed down so well on that shot and was able to redirect the pace right back on Rybakina, it was so impressive. And Rybakina was not getting those airs that she'd hoped for, and she kind of panicked that time because she knew that she wasn't able to outlast Swiatek in the longer rallies. Iga was just too good. I think the Wimbledon title also gave Iga a little bit more confidence to play even better on the faster surfaces, which again does not bode well for the rest of the tour. And I noticed the serving improvements last summer, but that serve is really starting to click. I was so impressed. And with her both serving and returning this well, I can definitely see her lift that second US Open title. Swiatek will be a bigger favorite to lift her first Cincy Open title on Monday night when she takes on Jasmine Paolini at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Paolini defeated Veronika Kudermetova 6-3, 6-7, 6-3 to reach her second 1,000th final of the year after she won the Italian Open on clay earlier. Jasmine will obviously be happy with this win over Kudermetova, but she made things kind of unnecessarily more complicated than what they needed to be, as she was leading 6-3, 5-3. And like versus golf in that quarterfinal, Paolini, she played scrappy tennis to survive and get through. As you can see from this stat sheet, the lopsided unforced error to winner ratio is not that pretty. I know this isn't clay, but I still get the vibes, the same vibes that I got before the 2024 Roland Garros final, where Swiatek just felt like such a huge, overwhelming favorite. Iga, she first leads the head-to-head 5-0, and she has only dropped one set to Paolini in their 5 previous meetings. And she really utterly dominated their last match, which was in the Berlin semifinals, not Berlin, Bad Homburg semifinals, winning that 1-6-1, 6-3. Iga will also be much more well-rested compared to Jasmine. Not only did Jasmine play doubles and back-to-back 3-setters, but she also turned her ankle in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Swiatek, she's playing one less match as, again, she got that walkover from Kostyuk in the 3rd round. And then simply, Iga is just in better form right now compared to Jasmine. Paolini, she has been barely getting by, not playing her best tennis, and I think it'll be too much of a challenging ask for Jasmine to try to find her best tennis against Iga in this final. And even if she does find her best tennis, I don't think it'll be enough. So not to mention the matchup issue, fatigue, and again, all the other factors. Iga, I'm having her win this in 2 sets. I'll predict a 6-3, 6-2 scoreline. Now, looking at the men's final between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, Alcaraz leads the head-to-head 8-5. Jannik won their last meeting in Wimbledon, so Carlos, he will be going for revenge here. Carlos leads the hardcore head-to-head, though, 5-2, which some people might be surprised about. And their last hardcore match was an epic final in Beijing, which Alcaraz, he won 7-6 in the 3rd set. This is Carlos' 7th straight final, So props. We got to give a clap up to Carlos for his incredible consistency. And he'll be looking for his 6th title of the year. He hopes to extend his wins also at the 1,000 level to 17 in a row. And this will be his very first Cincinnati Open title after falling in the final in a classic against Novak Djokovic in 2023. Sinner, meanwhile, seeks to defend his Cincinnati Open crown and hopes to extend his hard-court win streak to 27 in a row. And Alcaraz was the last man to beat him on the surface again back in late 2024 in the Beijing final. Comparing the two, Jannik has had an easier road when you consider the pedigree of opponent and ranking. He has not yet dropped a set, but he was pushed quite a few times, namely a few tiebreakers against Diallo, Mannarino, and Ataman in the semifinals. He did not play near his best in those matches, but the number one clutchness and overall, again, his clutchness got him through. Alcaraz, he has had a tougher road to the final. He dropped a set to Demir Žumur in round 2, and then another set against Andrei Rublev in the quarterfinals, which he won 7-5 in the 3rd set. And then he got a 4-3 win over a hampered and not so in it Alexander Zverev. I think this could be a very important matchup. I think this Sinner Alcaraz Cincy final is going to be a very important matchup for multiple reasons. I think it's going to be a little bit more important for Alcaraz. First of all, for him to get that momentum back from Jannik and kind of reestablish a little bit of a mental edge and also a more solid head-to-head advantage in his favor. Also, this will show that he can truly rival Jannik on the quicker hard courts, especially because people, they already view Jannik a little bit as here, Carlos here, especially on the faster hard court. So this can be a good opportunity to show both, the field and the wider public, and more importantly, Jannik, that Carlos still got it on this type of surface. And then also this puts Carlos in a better position to overtake Jannik for the world #1 ranking at the US Open. He would enter New York with a 50-point lead in the live rankings, Alcaraz would, if he were to win this final. Now, if Jannik wins, he would enter New York with a 650-point live rankings lead. I'm not going to do a fuller in-depth preview because the final is at 3 p.m. Eastern time and is coming up soon. I'll just go ahead and give my prediction now. I'm picking Sinner to win this one in 3 sets. I think that, yes, while Carlos is more battle-tested, he was also much more battle-tested at Wimbledon, and Jannik was still too much for him there. Neither man really has been playing all that close to their best tennis, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's a little bit sloppy and scrappy for this final, but I definitely expect it to be a battle. For sure, a bigger battle than the one that we saw in the Rome final, which Alcaraz took 6-1 in the 2nd set. I think it'll ultimately come down to firepower and whoever's going to be the superior server here, and I think that'll be Jannik. So again, I think that'll be his X factor, and that's why I'm having him win this one. And also, too, even the matches that Sinner has lost to Alcaraz, it's been close relatively, and he's had opportunities to win sets or even the match. I think that mental block now is gone after Jannik won Wimbledon, so I think he's a little bit more free. So again, picking him to win this one. But I'm curious to know who y'all think is winning. Drop your predictions in the comments below. Alcaraz and Sinner both have a crazy turnaround ahead of them because they're slated to play the Cincinnati Open final on Monday, and then also their first round matches for the US Open mixed doubles tournament starts Tuesday. The draw is out, and there are quite a few changes due to some player withdrawals. The top seeds are Jessica Pegula and Jack Draper. Their partners, Tommy Paul and Qinwen Zhang, and then also Paulo Badosa, withdrew due to injury concerns. They face off against Carlos Alcaraz and Emma Raducanu in the first round, which is a wild opening round match. Then you have Novak Djokovic returning to the court for the first time since Wimbledon alongside Olga Danilovic, his compatriot, and they take on Andreeva and Medvedev. Then you got the third seed, Swiatek Ruud, going up against Keys Tiafoe. I'm picking the Americans to get the upset right there. Naomi Osaka, she is now with Gael Monfils instead of Nick Kyrgios. They will play against Katie McNally and Lorenzo Musetti after Jasmine Paolini withdrew very sensibly. I think McNally Musetti is a low-key very solid team. Laurie just made the Cincy doubles finals, and Katie is a 2-time US Open women's doubles finalist alongside Coco Gauff. Jannik Sinner will be playing alongside Katerina Siniakova, who is a doubles god. He was originally supposed to play with Emma Navarro, who opted to play the Monterrey 500 tournament. Katerina has won 10 women's doubles slams, and she just won the Wimbledon mixed doubles title this year. They will open against Zverev and Bencic. Zverev-Bencic might be the weakest weakest team in the bunch, and I think that Sasha, I don't even know if he'll take the court due to how out of shape he looked in Cincinnati. Now, I think there's going to be another upset alert for the Frtiz, Anisimova, and Rune, who will play the lefties Shelton and Townsend, and they played together in mixed doubles in 2023. And Taylor, she's right now the world #1 in women's doubles, so I expect them, the lefties, to go on a little bit of a run here. Then you got Venus and Riley Opelka playing against Karolina Muchova and Andrei Rublev. Then the defending champions, mixed doubles US Open champions, Sada Irani and Andrea Vavasori, take on the second seeds and Eisenhower Cup champions, Elena Rybakina and Taylor Fritz. This could be the finals for real. This is a tough matchup for both teams, and I think that this match could be the one that decides whoever takes the title. Dropping my little predictions, I think in the semifinals we'll see Pegula Draper go up against Keys Tiafoe, and then Siniakova Sinner against Rybakina Fritz. And the finals, I'll have Siniakova Sinner take the title over Pegula Draper. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we saw even more last-minute withdrawals, considering how, Sinner and Alcaraz have yet to play their final, and it could be another epic one. Honestly, this tournament, it just really purely gives exhibition vibes. I think the tournament should have had more legit double specialists enter, like Evan King, Gabriela Dabrowski, just to name a few. I also think that the level might not be as high, considering how a lot of the singles players could be pretty burnt out, and a lot of these players went deep, and a few of these players went deep in Cincinnati, but we'll just have to wait and see what they have in store for us on Tuesday, I guess. That is all I have for this Cincy Open update video, and let me know in the comments who you think will lift the winner's trophy tomorrow, and also who you think will lift the US Open mixed doubles trophies. Again, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my next video. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.